this is an event that happened to me when there was a windstorm. I live in central Texas where there are big windstorms occasionally, where this knocked out the power. It was called a derecho. There's a tornado, which is a turning storm, and there's a derecho, which is a straight windstorm. And so this storm knocked out the power, 2 or 3 days, no electricity. It wasn't that hot, thank God, so just opened up the windows. And I had been trying to get some reading done. And so this was a chance. I'm just going to read these books. And I had a pencil and some notebook paper and a couple of books that I had been trying to read. So I focused on reading those books, and I got a lot done. And so spent the morning reading, spent the afternoon taking notes, doing some writing as well. By 5:15 or so, the end of the day, I felt amazing. I had gotten a lot done, but it was more than just getting a lot done. It was that I could think, that I could, I had been able to focus, and I had been able to process my thought without distraction, without multitasking, without other things kind of vying for my attention. And so this led me to what I now call the paper books cure. And it involves picking up a paper book, and we're going to pick up one today. This one, sorry, my disheveled book here, the second book of the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, from J.R.R. Tolkien. And so I offer you this paper books cure idea. Sitting in silence, exercising your memory over a story or a history book or some kind of nonfiction book, but it's going to take you 5 weeks of reading a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 or 5 times a week. And this is a part of your brain and my brain that has been atrophying in the recent decades because of the internet and all these things vying for our attention. And I'm not a Luddite. I use all this technology. I'm making videos and podcasts. So I love technology. I love my iPhone. But what I'm offering is, do digital intake. So use audiobooks, listen to audiobooks, read on your computer, read on your phone, read on an iPad, but keep 50% of your reading for paper books. If you do that, I'm convinced that this will help you accomplish 2 things. One is to connect with these great stories, because there's a great series of stories. I've got these bookshelves here. Our culture has developed many great stories. I mean, all kinds of cultures have. And so we are starved for stories. We don't really take in these stories. Okay, you watch movies, you play video games, where you're getting a kind of version of the story, but you're not getting the full story, the full benefit of reading through a longer book. And the second thing is to reclaim your attention. Our attention spans, they say, in the last 20 years have gone something to 2.5 minutes on average to 45 seconds on average. That's according to the tests that they've done. I would argue that it's quite a bit shorter than 45 seconds for most of us, including myself. When I started to try this paper books cure idea, and I sat down to read a long novel by Dostoevsky, I realized this is harder than it used to be. I have to work harder to focus my attention. It's not, my attention span has certainly been shrinking. And so that's what I offer, this paper books cure. Sometimes challenging books, things which, obviously it's work, but this should be something at least the way I'm offering the paper books cure, it's something that is beautiful, pleasurable. And I think I would urge you and me to look for beauty. And that's what's going to drive this. Your love of beauty, your love of pleasure. Pleasure's good in the reading of these wonderful stories. They're not all wonderful. Sometimes they're tragic, sometimes they're not stories. Sometimes they're more like histories. But that's what we need. And think about, we intake information. And there's been all these debates about, maybe, you can take in information by video. And so why do we need all these professors? Just have one brilliant professor record the video and then just show those videos all over the country and all over the world. And there's certainly some truth there, and I say this as a professor, in that, we should definitely make those videos and we should make them available, especially in places, let's say like in sub-Saharan Africa or parts of the United States or parts of South America, where there are no access to professors or to universities. Make those videos and audios more widely available, but that's not a university education. And there's a long story we can go into that, so I won't get into it too far. But it's obviously it's an in-person friendship, relationship. I'm going to say this carefully because it's a relationship. I mean, the professor and the students with each other. That is what the education consists of. And it's this conversation that starts in the classroom, but it bleeds out into like their lunch time and in like their club time and hanging out in the dorm late at night. That's where the learning is going to really get developed further. Okay, a lot to be said about that. And so you can have like a 10-second TikTok video or a 30-second text or email or a half-an-hour TV series or a 2.5-hour long movie. You're getting all this information, but there's something about the 20-hour, 35-hour, 500-page novel or many pages history or biography that is what I'm talking about. That's going to give you that capacity to connect more deeply to story, to unplug from the pull, the vortex of the internet-based digital maelstrom that's sucking us in. And so then I did a reading retreat, which I've talked about elsewhere, where I got 8 young men and myself, not so young men, to get to a house and to spend the weekend reading. So I want to transition to talking about this reading retreat event. And I'm going to my other camera, which is right here. And let me see if I can position myself in a way that you can see me and this document. So the reading retreat, we got there late Friday night. It was a 3-hour drive, so quite a distance away from our home base in Houston, but well worth the trip. And we got an early start on Saturday. Here's the schedule. So I'm not going to tell you like all the details, but we started reading after breakfast at around 9:15, reading in silence. And you think like, well, why'd you go all this way to read in silence? But that's the point. We want to train ourselves to have that attention span. And we were going to talk later, so it's not just silence. So we take a coffee break, we hang out, we read some more, 11 o'clock. We talk over lunch. We have lunch, we have meals where we can talk about what we've read. And we're reading The Two Towers, the second book in the Lord of the Rings series, lunch and discussion, and then we break again after lunch and read again for about an hour, 1:30 to 2:30. And one of the key things I wanted to do was a hike, because I think nature and books go together, and they're both kind of analog and full of meaning. And so here's the hike. This was the Texas Hill Country, very beautiful, very hot, but very refreshing overall, especially with some cold drinks. Free time, and then dinner with a further discussion, clean up and break. And then in the later evening, this thing's shaking, oops, I'll stop touching that. The theatrical reading of The Two Towers with cigars, wine, and cheese, and other snack good items. Yeah, so like the embodied experience of story, which comes from literally embodying the story by acting it out. And people took different roles of Gollum and Frodo and Sam and so forth. Next day, free time, some people went to church, then brunch discussion, and we had this really cool time, which was 45 minutes of silence to do nothing. You're not reading. What? Yeah, you're just thinking. And I found this amazing. I took a walk, I had a little notebook, I jotted down some ideas, and I just thought. And like, how often do you have a chance to just think? And then, anyway, it was amazing. So I totally need to do that more in my own life, and would encourage you to do something similar. So then, yeah, we got ready to go to the lake. There's a beautiful lake called Canyon Lake. The town is also called Canyon Lake. I would recommend it if you got a chance to go to the Texas Hill Country. And this was in October, and it was like really hot, actually, which can happen here in Texas. But it was beautiful to be in the water. So that's the overall plan. But what I wanted to do is look at the book. So we have the book, The Two Towers. Sorry, my book's a bit beat up and marked up, but that's the point. We want to mark up these books. So let's go ahead and look at this scene here. And without getting into the whole story, Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli are these three people following the two hobbits who'd been kidnapped, and they didn't reach them. And then they run into this group of men called the Rohirrim, the men of Rohan. There's these kind of horse expert men. And gosh, I need to reposition this because I keep touching the table. Anyway, getting back to the text, here's this discussion with these men of Rohan, and they're asking, but in these times the unbidden stranger finds us swift and hard. Come, who are you? Whom do you serve? At whose command do you hunt orcs in our land? Oh, let me get this out of the way. Hold on a second. I serve no man, said Aragorn, but the servants of Sauron I pursue into whatever land they may go. There are few among mortal men who know more of orcs, and I do not hunt them in this fashion out of choice. The orcs whom we pursued took captive two of my friends. In such need a man that has no horse will go on foot, and he will not ask for leave to follow the trail, nor will he count the heads of the enemy save with a sword. I am not weaponless. Aragorn threw back his cloak. The elven sheath glittered as he grasped it, and the bright blade of Andúril shone like a sudden flame as he swept it out. Elendil, he cried, I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and I am called Elasar, the elf stone Dunadan, the heir of Isildur, Elendil's son of Gondor. Here is the sword that was broken and is forged again. Will you aid me or thwart me? Choose swiftly. Well, pretty dramatic. Gimli and Legolas looked at their companion in amazement, for they had not seen him in this mood before. He seemed to have grown in stature while Éomer had shrunk, and in his living face they caught a brief vision of the power and majesty of the kings of stone. For a moment it seemed to the eyes of Legolas that a white flame flickered on the brows of Aragorn like a shining crown. Éomer stepped back, and a look of awe was in his face. He cast down his proud eyes. "These are indeed strange days," he muttered. "Dreams and legends spring to life out of the grass." "Tell me, Lord," he said, "what brings you here, and what was the meaning of the dark words? Long has Boromir, son of Denethor, been gone seeking an answer, and the horse that we lent him came back riderless. What doom do you bring out of the north?" "The doom of choice," said Aragorn. "You may say this to Theoden, son of Thengel. Open war lies before him, with Sauron or against him. None may live now as they have lived, and few shall keep what they call their own. But of these great matters we will speak later. If chance allows it, I will come myself to the king. Now I am in great need, and I ask for help, or at least for tidings. You heard that we are pursuing an orc host that carried off our friends. What can you tell us?" So in this passage, and you can see, like, I put some notes here, legends spring to life. So, like, when you're reading, you want to, like, see, like what's the key idea, and, like, and there's something deep and interesting and worthy of further discussion and conversation here. And when Éomer sees him and he declares himself basically to be the king, he says, "These are indeed strange days. Dreams and legends spring to life out of the grass." What's a legend? And a legend is, what's the difference between a legend and history? And Tolkien loved to play on these words, where we think about, Aeneas of the ancient Romans, he's a legend. He didn't really exist, or if he did exist, the story that we call the Aeneid didn't happen quite the way it happened, with all these monsters and gods and goddesses flying through the air and stuff like that. He was just a human being, and he did human things. And yet, there's something real in the story of the Aeneid, and there's something real in what is Rome, and what is the idea of Rome, and how the people of Rome, like, built on that idea and built a great empire and great architecture and culture and literature and music and philosophy. And so there's something real about this kingship of Aragorn, and he, it says, like, his face kind of like reflects the statues of the ancient kings, and so that ancient past is not just totally gone, that is still alive in our daily life, that the virtues, the ideals, the values of justice and truth and beauty, those are fully real. They're not a lie. They're not legends. Okay, the details, perhaps, like, we don't know if the details of those stories are all true, and whether there was, like, monsters and that kind of thing. But this is Tolkien's point, that these things are real today. And we read these ancient myths and these ancient stories, or this modern version of an ancient myth that Tolkien wrote in the 20th century, as getting access to reality and not escape from reality. And so there's this scene here. We have the discussion here of all of Aragorn's names, and you're like, whoa, this is pretty intense. I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, Elisar, Elfstone, Dunedain, Isildur, Elendil's. Whoa, it's like, whoa, all these names. He has this history behind him, and his names are important. And that lineage gives him kingly authority. And like up until this point, the other two fellows, Legolas and Gimli, they like, yeah, he's a good guy. But now they're saying, like, actually, this guy's got authority. He's the king, and he's kind of declaring himself as that king. And he's going to claim that in the next book, which is called The Return of the King, significantly. So good. So that's some ideas there. I wanted to refer to a chart I have here as well. Let me get back to my other camera, where I present how symbolic thinking can work. And what do I mean by symbolic thinking? I mean, like a symbol, like, you know, a sword can be a symbol of a king, or a cross can be a symbol of Christianity, or a star can be a symbol of Judaism. So these symbols, or like the Eiffel Tower can be a symbol of France. And okay, so it's a physical thing, but it's more than a physical thing. And it reflects a pattern that's really in the world, but you have to kind of be familiar with that language of the symbol in order to make sense of it and see the meaning, and that symbol really does something in the world. It's not just a kind of lie, which some people say, like, oh, that's just a lie. Like, you know, France is just an idea. It's not. It's like that border between France and Spain. It's just. There's nothing there. It's just an imaginary line. But I'm arguing, and Tolkien is arguing, that these are real things, and whether they're like an idea like France, or an idea like the beautiful, or the just, what is just, or what is a just kingdom. And so let's look at my little chart here, and I'm borrowing from a particular psychologist / philosopher, excuse me, named John Vervaeke, who I tend to talk about, and he talks about 4P cognition. And here on the right side, I have all 4 Ps. The first P is on the left side, propositional. Second, participatory, perspectival, and procedural. Those are the 4 Ps. And our culture tends to really think only about propositional, or mainly about propositional, which is in the logical aspect of thinking, which is obviously legitimate. We need logic. We need to like think logically. Obviously, if we don't think logically, like, you're going to be totally clueless. But if we just think logically, we're leaving out this whole other part of thinking, which I'm putting under the term symbolic thinking. And so let's start with the first one on the left. Propositional thinking, propositional knowing. To know a statement is true or false, to know a fact. There's a computer monitor in front of me. That's a fact. It's a physical, material fact. I can test it. And it's true. So that's totally an important way of knowing. Let's look at other ways of knowing, which are other parts of to really know what's going on, to really know the world. If I limit myself to the logical, I don't know crap. I mean, I need to know way more to that in order to really know the world, even to know, like, scientifically. Science relies on symbolic thinking. And so in participatory knowing, this one's the one that makes me more confused. Let me make sure I'm remembering myself. It's context specific. It's knowing how to participate in an environment or a relationship. For example, to be in flow, to be in a dance with the environment. So like when I know participatorily, in a participatory way, I know how to deal with the room, the air conditioning, the light, how to get into my car and how to get from here to home. Like, and what is flow? Flow is a state of mind, a state of consciousness, and where I'm really working well with the environment. So like when Michael Jordan was in flow, he was totally in control. Well, not, in fact, he's not totally in control, but he was totally flourishing in his team, against the other team, on that court, and he was effortlessly like doing beautiful moves and making beautiful baskets. And that is a type of knowing that takes a lot of years of experience and practice and talent in order to do. So that's a type of knowing that is important as well. Let's keep going. Perspectival knowing is knowing from within my particular point of view. Like, I'm in my body. I'm not just like floating. I'm not just like a kind of consciousness that's floating or a brain in a vat. I'm an embodied 56-year-old, feeling the age and think like, drinking coffee to stay awake. Like that's, and male, and I have my own personal history and my own experience of dealing with other people and so forth. That's perspectival knowing. Then there's procedural knowing how to do something, like how to like follow a procedure of like now, like I had to figure out how to set up the camera and 2 cameras, and like I had to like look up these YouTube videos and get advice from other people who know how to film things. Like, yeah, that's knowing how to do this. And so all of these things, they're all beyond just a material like thingness. It's looking at the meaning, the kind of shine of meaning that comes beyond what's just the material thing. There's like a symbolic valence, whether that's, like I said, like the Eiffel Tower, or a sex symbol like Elvis or Madonna. Like those are just bodies, but they mean so much more. Like the vibe and the culture surrounding Elvis, it's powerful, and it's culture shaping and shapes the lives of many people. It's a real thing beyond just the materiality of his body. And obviously religion is full of symbols, like the lives of Moses and Muhammad and Buddha, and then symbols that they trafficked in order to like get their message across and create the religions and the cultures that they did. So good. So I wanted to just make that point that when I'm looking at stories, I'm going beyond what's just material and logical and empirical. And in a way, our culture has neglected the narrative, the story aspect of knowing, the symbolic thinking. And so part of the way that we enrich ourselves through books is getting in touch with this type of thinking, cultivating symbolic thinking, seeing the meaning, seeing the different languages that have worked together to create this symbolic valence of such and such image. I guess I'm just looking here. I'll just share this with you for a second. This is something that someone gifted to me, one of my colleagues who's now deceased, may she rest in peace. But before she retired, she said, "Hey, you need this, Paul." So I got 2 of these, and I don't know why I'm showing this to you, but there's a symbolic valence to this kind of guy, and he's got like a religious symbol, the cross, and he's kind of like a monk, and he's got the book, but it's about being committed to books and ancient culture and thousands of years of history. That's all kind of contained in this like wooden figurine. And anyway, I like having them around me for that reason. So I'll leave you with that. Keep reading. You're going to change your life, and I need to continue to change mine, because we're all stuck in this meaning crisis, this liquid modernity that's fragmenting our personalities and our capacity to think and our capacity to pay attention. So books are a crucial part of the answer to become a contemplative. Let's become contemplatives.